All right, here we go. Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I'm your host, Trainer Lindsay, and I am super excited because I have Abby Green on as our very first guest. How are you, Abby?
Good. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about this with you, and your podcast has just been so fun to listen to so far. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. I know when I thought of okay, who's going to be the very first guest? I knew it needed to be Abby. Let me introduce her first, and then we'll kind of go into what she is an expert at. So if you are a client, an elite client of Moxie Coaching, you know Abby very well. She is our mindset coach on our team. Abby is certified with the Life Coach School. I am a huge fan of everything the Life Coach School teaches. I love it. She's also certified in Tiny Habits. And she's an advanced faith-based coach with Jody Moore and Thrive Global, which I think is so cool. But I think that you need to tell everybody what I think your coolest job is.
Well, it is pretty fun. And my husband and I, with my sister and brother-in-law here in Chicago, own 4 crumble cookie locations.
So. Oh my gosh. Do you get crumble cookies? Do you bring them home a lot? Is it a problem?
It's not a problem, but I do bring them home a lot.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so awesome. And maybe we can go into some mindset tricks about why it's not a problem for you and why it's just, moderation is a big deal, right? So we want to talk about mindset today. So, I listen to a lot of, positivity mindset gurus, and I have over the years, and I've just really found, and I don't really know why. So maybe you can shed some light on this today, but I have just really found that, when clients are happy and positive and grateful and just kind of looking for those little wins, they see better results. I don't know why. And we all have the clients too, where they're always just discouraged and upset and frustrated and just kind of always complaining. Guys, those clients never see as good of results as the happier clients. I don't really know why. So I want to also tell a quick story. And then Abby, I want you to kind of dig all into this. So in 2016, back when I used to compete in bodybuilding, I remember I was prepping for a competition and nothing was happening, like zero progress. I was 16 weeks out, 4 months out, nothing was happening. I got to 12 weeks out, nothing was happening. 8 weeks out, we actually called off the show because my body was just not responding. And I remember my check-ins with my coach, I was super bummed and discouraged, and I complained a lot. I've grown a lot in the mindset game in the last 7 years. And I complained and I was down. I was frustrated with good reason, of course. But I remember my coach was just telling me, she was very straightforward. And she was like, Lindsay, you are not going to see results when you're negative like this. You cannot see results when your mind is in this place of just like, woe is me. This is so sad. This is a bummer. Like, it's understandable to feel that way. But if you want to see results, you have to change your mindset. So that's kind of where we're going with this. So Abby, why don't you tell me kind of how did you get into this life coaching, habit coaching, and why are you so passionate about it?
So it was probably almost close to 8 years ago that my husband went back to school. And about this time, he went back to get a master's in business administration. And about that time was when we had 3 little kids at home, all in diapers. I was full mom mode of taking care of my kids, my babies. And he went back to school. He brought these books home. I started reading again, and I just fell in love with learning again. It was like I had forgotten that was something that I needed for myself and to really take care of my mind. And so I started reading some of the books that he would bring home, and it was, positive psychology. It was behavioral science stuff. It was business books. And he brought home a book called The Power of Habit. And do you have it?
No, but I'm like, oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. And so I probably listened to it or read it. I mean, I still have it on my desk. Like,
who's it by, in case anyone wants to see?
It's by Charles Duhigg.
Okay.
And I probably read or listened to it a dozen times. And it was kind of almost like an obsession thing of like, wow, this is just so interesting. Mm-hmm. Discovering why we do what we do and how our thoughts and feelings and behaviors are all kind of intertwined and connected.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of started me on this journey of like discovery and psychology. And I thought maybe, when my kids are grown, I'll go back to school and be a therapist or a psychologist or something. But it was about that time that I discovered the life coach school. And it was like the positive side of the behavior sciences. Like that's what coaching is. It's not like a lot of therapy is, let's get you to baseline. Let's get you out of the negativity. But then it's like, okay, we're functioning
there kind of. Okay.
Whereas coaching is like, let's go on to growth. Let's develop, let's create things. Let's crush goals,
Yeah.
And so I just fell in love with it, and I got certified at the life coach school, which then it's where I discovered the model. And at the life coach school, they talk about what you were just kind of saying about why is it why are our results connected to our mindset?
Yeah. Yeah.
And our mindset is really, the way I kind of think of it is the story we're telling ourselves about ourselves and the world.
Okay.
And so it's kind of how we interpret our circumstances.
Yeah.
And at the life coach school, we learned that our thoughts are optional, and that the circumstances don't determine our thoughts, but that we can start with our thoughts, which then create feelings, which drive behaviors or our actions, and then that's where our results come from. So it's like this. It's a simplified way of explaining the different aspects of human behavior. And so anyway, I then went on to, a couple years later, discover a book also about habits, but it's by BJ Fogg, who is a behavior scientist at Stanford University. He wrote Tiny Habits.
Okay. And
Tiny Habits was like the how of applying the model.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And Tiny Habits is just like taking the little anatomy of habits and breaking it down into little tiny parts that you can do, like right now, today.
Yeah, I love when you talk about that.
And tomorrow. And then that's how we build momentum. And we can change our mindset through those habits, just like we can change behavioral habits, just in tiny tweaks.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's kind of like my story of where I started with, and then what it kind of came full circle back to habits again.
I love that. So let me go back to something you said. You said we can change our mindset through our habits. How do we do that?
So if we take kind of just the most basic parts of a habit.
Yeah, we can use an example even.
And we all habits, good ones, bad ones, they start small. And then they fit into our routine, and they're strengthened by our emotions.
Okay.
And so if we want to form a habit, like what we talk about a lot with your clients, is tracking our macros.
That's a good one. Let's use that.
And people, it's hard because it's something they're not doing. They're mindlessly eating, or they're, like most people aren't thinking about the macronutrients in their meals.
Right.
And so now you're asking them to be intentional about it. So it feels hard. And so let's take it and let's break it down. What's the smallest version of tracking your macros? What's the hardest part? And then we start that conversation. Okay, so maybe it's planning ahead the next day.
Yeah, that's a big one I hear. Yeah, for sure.
What's the smallest version of planning? And let's just write the protein down. Even.
Okay, I was going to say, so how would you break that down for someone? Like, pretend like you're working with me and I'm like, I really struggle with planning my food for tomorrow. What would you tell me to do?
So I would probably start with, what are you eating right now? Like, what is the typical breakfast, lunch, snacks? Write that down, look at it and say, okay, if the thing that I'm needing to focus on is getting my protein up, let's just start with that. Let's start with the first part of every meal. Let's focus on the protein. Let's plan the protein and let's do the protein and celebrate that you're being intentional with this. And as we start to make those little changes in just like, hey, my coach told me that I need to focus on the protein and I'm doing what I said I would do, we start to feel a little bit of momentum because we're doing what we
Yeah.
said we would do. And that
Okay.
confidence comes. And it's kind of what you were saying earlier. Like when we're positive, we get results. When we're confident that what we're doing works, we keep doing it. It's not just that,
Oh, yes.
but it works because we're doing it. In all reality, a lot of ways of losing weight is going to work.
Sure, for
It's
sure.
just we don't always do it. And
Yeah.
so it's the tool that you're using is the most useful.
Right. No, that makes so much sense. And so when you talk about mastering those habits, changing your mindset, it is, you're right. It's that building that confidence, seeing the results, and then having a more positive outlook because you did those things, right?
And so it's like the chicken and the egg. Like, which is it? Is it, do I feel better when I'm doing these behaviors, or
Mhm.
do I do these behaviors because I feel better? And it's both.
Yeah.
But that's where we can create that momentum. And so we're taught, and I talk a lot about this with your clients, because we're taught in society, when you know better, you do better.
Hmm.
And like, there's smart people all over that literally say that. Like,
Yeah.
when you know better, you'll do better. And so we go out and we get some information. We listen to a podcast, we read a book, we watch YouTube, we hire a coach even. And then, so now we have more information
Hmm.
and we're not doing it. And we're like, something's wrong with me. That's
Right.
it. That's the only conclusion that our brains can come up with when we've got the information and we're still not doing what we know better or what we know we should. And so then we're like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And that shameful mindset is kind of playing in the background of everything we do. And so we aren't really able to follow through, and we don't really make the changes, and we feel bad. And so we throw our hands up and we say, well, that thing didn't work.
Right.
That's not what it is at all. It's just, it's it's not when we know better, we'll do better. It's when we feel good, we are able to do what we value. And so we're then able to change. That's how people change. We change when we feel good. And I'm not talking feel good like instant gratification, feel good like, oh,
Sure.
eat a treat. I'm talking the overall mindset, the story you're telling yourself about yourself, when that is good and positive and uplifting or growth,
Hmm.
then that confidence comes. And then it's like we have the energy to do the things that we say we're going to do, which then
Right.
propels us forward. And it helps us actually use the tools that our coach gives us, or that we read in the book or listen to on the podcast. And then it's that alignment of what we say we value and what we do in the world that helps us
Love
feel.
that. Yeah, I love that so much. So, what do you think we can, like, let's say we are, I mean, just more of a negative person. I found some people are just more positive naturally, some people are more negative naturally. What if someone's listening and they're like, I want to be more positive, but how do I change my mindset? Like, that's kind of just how they've always been and they don't know how to fix that. What would you say to them?
And we have all this evidence, right? We're like, but look, I should be discouraged. It's not working. And
Exactly, like with good reason.
going back to your story from competing those years ago, like your coach said, Lindsay, being negative,
Yeah.
not going to work. And then you're like, I know, but how do I get off the treadmill or the
Right.
hamster wheel? Like, what was your experience back then? She told you don't be negative. And what were you doing?
I was just like complaining. I was just like, oh, why is this happening? What am I going to do? Like, just kind of feeling down. And I see it in our clients when we're looking at, client check-ins. It's, you can have two different clients with the same results, right? So like in your words, the circumstances are the same. Maybe you have two clients. They both lost a half a pound and a half an inch around their waist in 1 week. And you might have one client that is like, see, this never works for me. I never see results. Oh my gosh, like this is so slow. I'm never going to get to my goal. And you have another client that's like, I am thrilled that I lost a half inch around my waist. this is so great. And that client usually also notices I'm sleeping better. Have more energy. They're just noticing more positives. Whereas the other one is just like, I only lost a half pound this week, and that's all they see. So like, how does one get from one to the other?
So I think first, and it's cliche because it's true. Oh, we're going to have to pause this.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, 1 second.
Nope, you're good.
So sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so you said it's cliche, but it's true. So if you could say that part again and then keep going. Do you remember what we were talking about?
Cliche, but true. Oh, okay. So
like, how do you get from the negative person to the positive person?
okay. So it's cliche because it's true that awareness is the first step, right? And so seeing that and using it to just, okay, I'm aware that I'm looking for the negative. I'm seeing the negative. And then instead of just recognize, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I stop being negative. We say, because that's judgmental, right? And if we then say, I wonder why, like, okay, so curiosity,
okay,
instead of judgment. Oh, I wonder why. Yes, there's evidence for the negativity or the discouragement. But what else is true? What else could I focus on? What am I grateful for? What tiny little bit of progress am I making? Like, we can ask ourselves different questions is really kind of how we can get off of it. Because I think we see a problem and we want to fix that problem.
Sure.
And then we're focused on the problem instead of see the problem, accept that is the logical, thing, that the story that our brain has come up with, and be like, accept it, see it, and pivot to something from curiosity.
Okay.
And that curiosity is always so much easier to change your mindset from than a place of judgment. Like, you think of your coach back then saying, don't be negative. You can't be negative. You're being negative. And you're like, yeah, but
how do I not be?
Like, yeah, how do I not be? I don't understand how. Versus, okay, yeah, I see that you're being negative. Do you see how you're being negative? Do you want to be negative? Maybe you don't want to actually be negative. What else can we focus on? What else is true? How can I direct this energy to something of the goal? Like, so back then when you were focusing on that, like, now knowing what you know, like, what would you have told yourself?
Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I probably would have, tried to find those little wins, but I think that I can see myself in our clients now because in our check-in form, we say, tell me a win from the last week. And, I'm using this negative client, I'm making her up. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular, but it's like, I had no wins. And so that's probably how I was back then. I can't really remember. It's been so long, but, kind of like, how do you find the good? I don't know what's going right. Nothing's going right is what I or this person would say,
And I think that that is a place where you can just say, is that true?
Right. And then when you're objective about it and you're like, well, no, that's not true because I have a great life. I have happy kids. I have like all these other things.
Right. And that's where, and then that curiosity kind of got your foot in the door to then
Sure.
be able to, okay, now we're going to focus on that. And then now we're going to fuel that fire instead of the fire of complaining.
Yeah.
And because really we believe what we believe more than what our coach or someone else is going to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can start as coaches asking our clients, or when we're trying to like dial in our own mindset, if we can ask ourselves different questions, we'll go to work answering them. And so if we think like, if we're like, oh, I'm not getting results and why is this not working?
Mm-hmm.
That question of why is this not working, your brain goes to work to answer it. Oh, because your kids are hard, or oh, because your job, you don't have time, you don't have money, you don't have the resource, like whatever it is.
Right. So it's like, is that question a productive question to be worried about?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a different question that we could ask ourselves instead of why isn't this working? It's like, what is working? What's one thing that's working? And it's often like you were saying about, well, I'm sleeping better.
Mm-hmm.
I feel more energized eating this way than, physically.
Right.
I don't feel deprived. Oh, like you just told me like 5 wins, and that
Right.
is amazing. Like, did you realize that that's actually more true? And let's focus on that. And then that's where we can kind of create habits of celebrating those small wins.
Okay.
So we want to look for those on a daily basis, because then that's where we can build the momentum.
I love that. This is so good. So you mentioned gratitude in there. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how important do you think is like a daily gratitude list or gratitude practice? What do you think about that?
I think that it's so important in regard to your mindset. It's probably one of the single most important things you could do to become aware of your mindset and use, because everyone has at least somewhat of a positive mindset somewhere.
Sure.
And it's with that gratitude that we can really kind of anchor that in. And if we have like a gratitude practice every day, thinking of or writing down things that we're grateful for and why, then it just brings that more present in our day, in our life. And then whatever we do, we get good at. So if we're complaining, we get really good at complaining.
Sure.
And if we're looking for things to be grateful for, we get better at it.
Right. You're going to see more things. I like how you just said, and write down the why, because I have a note in my phone and I write down 5 things I'm grateful for every single day. I mean, I don't do it every day, but I try to, and it's been years. And so it's a very long note, but I'll write things like my bed or my sweatpants or something like, they're not always these deep, wonderful, profound things, but I like the idea of why, because it just makes you kind of dwell on it for a minute. And I could think like, I like my bed because it keeps me warm at night and it's really comfortable and helps me sleep. And that's just kind of like going like one step deeper. So I like that. I've never really thought about writing down the why.
And the beautiful thing about that is that it connects to your feelings, which
Oh,
is very important. Like when we talk about this thought model of our thoughts create our feelings, drive our actions, which create our results,
uh-huh.
we often leave out our feelings because we've kind of been taught to like minimize our feelings. And certainly like in regards to instant gratification, we shouldn't be listening to our feelings.
Sure.
But our feelings are here to guide us. And if we can connect something we're grateful for to our feelings and our senses, then we're so much more likely to remember it, because our feelings, our senses are created to our emotions, and our emotions are what anchor habits.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. I keep like thinking of more questions for you as we keep talking. So you mentioned celebrating the wins, celebrating the successes. Like, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like go out and buy a new pair of shoes or get a massage every time you make your bed? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I love that question, because the celebration I'm talking about is in the moment, the instant you do the behavior, it's the celebration of, I did what I said I would do. It's kind of like you think of like athletes doing a victory dance. It's like right when they score the touchdown, they're
Oh, I
dancing.
love that.
And it's like when our kids are young and they're, say, for example, learning to walk, and or any like talking or things, we are celebrating them in any small win. Like they fall, we're get back up. Yay, you got back up. We're celebrating every little thing. And that's one reason why children learn so quickly. It's because they're celebrating any little positive thing, and we're celebrating them. And that's anchoring it in that this is a good behavior. Because when we were talking before about the anatomy of a habit, where it starts small, and it's strengthened by your emotions, the emotion of celebration in the moment is the little tiny hit of dopamine your brain receives to remember, I want to do this thing again. I liked how I felt. And so it's not buy yourself some shoes. It's not plan a girls trip. It's not anything really future. It's the present celebration that
So
matters.
what do you do? Do you do a victory dance? Like what do you do exactly?
For me, it can be as simple as just smiling and saying, I did it.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Or, you hear about giving yourself a high five in the mirror. I mean, it's so funny because it's so not what we do as adults. We're like, we minimize this. This is not something to celebrate. I should not be behaving like this. I just, did 10 push-ups. That's not a big deal.
Right.
But we need to do more celebration in order to form these habits faster and easier. That's one thing that we can start doing that sounds silly, but it's really helpful. So
I love it.
It really can be as simple as just smiling and saying, I did it.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. I want to pivot to the model a little bit, but is there anything else you wanted to touch on kind of about that mindset piece before we go there?
I don't think so.
Okay. So can we, as maybe our last talking point, break down the model with like a fitness example? I don't know. Maybe we do it. Maybe we do a thought, like a model about the person who says, I only lost a pound this week or something. Can we take that?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
So the circumstance of weight loss, right? You said we are comparing these two different people. One said it was great and one said it wasn't, but it's the same thing. It's that circumstance of half a pound down. Is that what you said?
Yes. So circumstance is the top of the model.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from there, we're just going to say circumstances are neutral. And that's not necessarily, okay, everything is neutral. This bad thing that happened or this whatever is neutral. That's not what I'm saying. It's that it's neutral until we have a thought about it. So my life experience is different than yours, is different than, this client who lost half a pound. And it's that experience that we bring to the circumstance that dictates what we will believe about it. So the thought that we will believe is true. And so it's easy to just believe what we've always believed.
Yeah.
Carry on with our day. Like someone who's trying to lose weight, they haven't been able to in the past. So they lose half a pound and they think that's not enough. I have so much more to go.
Right. Right.
And so that's the thought that then causes kind of a discouraging feeling, something like it's not enough, dissatisfaction, something. And from that feeling of discouragement, we then do behaviors. We take action, and that those actions aren't what they could be or would be had we believed half a pound is amazing.
Right. Like, I mean, we hear all the time, well, I didn't get the results I wanted, so I went and I ate a bunch of dessert. Like, well, that, doesn't really make sense. I mean, it does actually make sense when you think about it like this. It makes perfect sense, but it's not helping you reach your goals, but it makes sense. So you have the circumstance of, I only lost a half a pound. The thought of it's not enough. I have so far to go. the feeling of discouragement, the action of going off track and eating a bunch of dessert.
And
So
then your result is
back
directly
up.
links back to it's not enough. It's like you went to work to make it not enough.
Yeah.
Your behaviors, because the thoughts that we believe, your brain just is going to do what it's told. It's like, oh, make sure that's not enough.
Yeah.
You go to work and make sure it's not enough. And then you probably gain weight. And then you're like,
Right.
yeah, wow, my brain is really right, doing exactly what it should. It just wants to be right. And so if we then look at, okay, what else is true? How else can I look at half a pound?
Yeah. Can you flip that model to like a better version? Like if someone's like, well, what should I be thinking and doing?
I would just start with that curiosity of what else is true. What have you ever lost half a pound in the past? Is half a pound closer to your goal weight than you were last week?
Right.
Yes, but. And so that but will just be so telling of what they actually believe, that this is more valuable than that. And so it's that just trying to get curious and have that awareness and pivot to something more useful that's aligned. Like what you were saying, it doesn't make any sense, but it does. But when we remember what we value and we try and keep pivoting ourselves back to what we value, like, yes, I didn't lose 5 pounds, but half a pound is towards my goal.
Yeah.
And then that feels like we're living into our value and we're remembering this goal matters. It's not like, and I know I've heard your client say a lot, like, I'm not as obsessed with the finish line as I used to be
I love that. That's awesome.
in other diets or whatever, because it's sustainable and it's a lifetime. It's like you're teaching people to make meaningful changes that are sustainable, that they can do forever, like forever, not deprive yourself until you get to your goal weight.
Right.
And so when we have that as like, okay, I'm living into my values and half a pound is for sure on my path.
Yeah.
Then we feel good or confident or like we're on the right track. And when we feel that, we can do the behaviors that are aligned with the plan we've created, and the results are inevitable.
Yeah, I love that.
Doing it, the results are inevitable.
Right, for sure. And so yeah, so you can see how I want to go back to something you said in the very beginning about thoughts being optional. And so in this example of the person losing the half pound, their thought of that's not enough, I'm never going to get to my goal. I guess just questioning and being curious and realizing I don't have to think that. I actually can think this other one of I'm closer to my goal than I was last week. And that thought is going to produce a feeling of satisfaction, which is going to produce an action of continuing to stay on plan. Am I going with this right?
Totally. It's so funny because we have thousands of thoughts every day. Some people say, a couple thousand, some people say like 50,000. Like, I don't know the number, but it is more than I can consciously be aware of.
Sure.
And so it's like, we're really good at letting some go. Like an idea comes to my mind and I don't have to believe it.
Right.
That's what's so interesting is there's thoughts that come to our minds all the time that just come and go and we don't get all dramatic about them.
Right. So why are we so tied to some of them?
Yeah. And it's like what you said of that's just not useful. Can we get better at just seeing a thought come and just let it go? Like, I don't have to engage with that right now. And that's intentional. Like, I want to be intentional about what I value. This is my goal. Like, just grounding yourself in that and reminding yourself when you forget and coming back to it at whatever point you realize you're off track, like just come back to that goal or that outcome that you believe. And I know that I talk a lot with the Moxie Elite clients of just trust the process. You signed up because you trusted the process. Like, don't lose sight of that. Your results are inevitable if you
I love that. Yes. Do you think what role do you think meditation plays in our ability to let thoughts go? and question them?
So, I love that question, because that's one thing that I'm really passionate about over the years as I became a coach. One habit that I picked up on that I do every single day is meditation, whether it's just focusing on my breath or doing a guided meditation. It's a practice where you can watch your mind think. It's like I was saying, how we've got all these thoughts that coming. I'm not engaging with all of them. Meditation helps you see your mind is going to just go with thought. They're going to come, they're going to go. And meditation can help you see you don't have to believe everything you think.
Right. So I think, what you're saying right now is perfect to the person I hear all the time. Someone say, I can't meditate. My mind goes a million miles a minute. I can't possibly quiet it. What do you say to that?
Because I think we've lost sight of what meditation is. I think at one point we kind of thought, like, society thought meditation was like go into non-thinking, which unconscious, which we can't do.
And that's discouraging for people because they think that's not possible.
Right. And so what I have come to realize is useful about meditation is, hey, focus on your breath, count to 10. I'm so not good at that. But the practice of trying, what helps me get good at recognizing my thoughts are optional, because I keep bringing myself back. It's like when you're like, let's use some weights at the gym. We're practicing. And meditation is kind of like that, doing weights for your brain to see thoughts are optional. Oh, there I go. And so if I'm doing a meditation and I'm trying to, focus on my breath and count to 10 for, say I set a timer for 5 minutes, I lose track of 10 more times than I can count.
Okay. So even Abby, like the guru.
No, it doesn't mean I'm bad at meditation. It means that I'm practicing being aware of my thoughts.
I love that. So it's not about perfection. It's not about getting it right every time. It's just about practicing. And something I heard once that I liked was, think about meditation like a cloud in the sky or a car on the road. Think about your thoughts like a car on the road or a cloud in the sky, and you just watch them come and watch them go. And it's more just like stepping back and watching as opposed to trying to eliminate them. Do you agree with that?
Yes. And that is what is useful, is when you can sit there, say you're laying on the grass and you're watching the clouds in the sky come and go. You're not aware of every single one of them. The ones you notice, you can let go, just like you can notice a thought that might not serve you, and you can let it go. And then you get good at being able to, you're trying to be intentional about your macros and you have a craving for sugar. You don't have to obey that craving. Like, it's like one of those clouds in the sky that can just float by. It will.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So good.
Only the ones that we fuse to, that we get hooked by, that are either a problem or a solution. And so why not focus on those thoughts that help us to our goals? Yeah.
And just let the other ones go. And meditation can help you do that. That's so good. So good, Abby. That kind of sums up all my questions. Is there anything else you feel like people should know?
No, it's been so fun to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, so fun. Tell us how people can find you. You do the mindset coaching for our Moxie clients, but you also coach on your own independently, right? Tell us about that. How can they find you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, my website is just Simply Thrive Now. And yeah, I love working with your clients. It's such a fun format that we've come up with over these. I think it's been almost 2 years.
Has it really? Oh my gosh.
So fun. But yeah, I also have private clients that I work with, like on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And we just really just talk about how our thoughts and feelings and behaviors are connected, and where we want to be intentional and aware. And yeah.
I love it. And tell everyone, drop your Instagram handle, Facebook, however we can find you.
Also just Simply Thrive Now on Instagram.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for getting on here and talking through this. I think it's so, so important for everyone to hear.
Awesome. Thanks so
Okay,
much.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay, so let me stop this recording. Hold on one second. Okay. Let's